We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button. If you like our content, share the video with your family and friends. If you want to donate to support this Rebel Outpost College Football YouTube channel, hit the $ when you make a comment, and I'll get you a super chat as soon as I can. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway in Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. And we're going to be taking phone calls earlier than usual. Yesterday's live show, I think we were on for 2 hours and 45 minutes. The phone did not stop ringing. And so we're going to do a shorter monologue. And then we're going to open up the phone lines, and because I know a lot of people want to express their opinions, their emotions on what's going down in the college football landscape. So we're going to open up the phone lines, and if the phone isn't ringing off the hook, I got a whole lot of other stuff I can get into when it comes to college football. I've delayed my rankings of the Big 12 quarterbacks and the Big 10 quarterbacks going into the 2024 season. We've delayed some other stories that we can get to later, but you all know what's going on in Dallas, Texas, or at least today there was virtual calls. They were on Zoom, I believe. We're still calling it Dallas, Texas. Even if they're not there physically, we're calling it Dallas, Texas. Welcome in, everybody. We have a stacked show today. It is called Powers 2, Ruthless Aggression. Here in a little bit, I'm going to be popping up a short little article by Dellinger from Yahoo Sports that was released about an hour before we came on live. I got a feeling that there's going to be other articles popping up later tonight talking about the strategy of the Big Ten and the SEC going into tomorrow. We talked about it yesterday on the live show. I put out 2 episodes today. If you haven't watched them, go back and watch them after this live show. Episode 373, episode 374. The easy part got done today. It was a struggle, but it got done. The official playoff format model has been officially changed for 24 and 25. We're going from 6+6 to 5+7. That means the top 5 rated conference champions are going to get an automatic bye. The top 4 conference champions, the top 5 conference champions are going to get an automatic berth. The top 4 of those top 5 conference champions, rated conference champions, by the people in the room who rate the teams, those 4 are going to get an automatic bye in the first round. And then after those 4 teams are slotted in 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to go by the rankings. The at-large bids from 5 to 12, with one of them being a conference champion. Most likely the G5 conference champion will probably be slotted 12th, right? Most likely. But we'll see what happens. I love the format. I happen to love the format. But how long is that playoff format going to exist? I don't think very long. At the back end of my title for this show, I call it Power 2's Ruthless Aggression, Dallas, Texas. But at the back end of the title, you might not have seen it. I said Sankey and Petitti playing bad cop, bad cop. Not bad cop, good cop. No. They're playing bad cop, bad cop. I will explain when I've been on the phone. There is a strategy here that we are going to unveil here at college football's peak around the corner. One of them is not playing bad cop and the other one's playing good cop. They're both playing bad cop. Power 2, Ruthless Aggression. I want to thank everybody who's come on in early at the start of this epic live show today, one day before either the fireworks, resolution, or kicking the can down the road. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Now, I'm going to tell you what I think. At the very start of the show, tomorrow, I think we're going to be doing a lot of kicking the can down the road once again, mixed in with a little bit of fireworks. I think we're going to get some fireworks tomorrow and a lot of kick in the can. The resolution part, unfortunately, I think is going to be limited to nothing. So buckle up, brace for impact. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. Put down your comments in the chat room and then give us a phone call. We're going to open up the phone calls earlier than normal on this live show. We got to get your thoughts, your comments before tomorrow. And tomorrow, Me and the little general is already in the chat room moderating with an iron fist. The little general and I have an appointment at 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. When we get back from that appointment, we're going to be setting up the studio. We're going to be going live because tomorrow is a big, big, big day. And again, I think we're going to get a few more articles tonight coming out, even maybe during this live show. So keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel for any other articles that come out during our show. I see some comments. Mr. Monkey says, it can't be an epic show. Greg, no drums. The reason I didn't do live air drums during the start of the show, I was still doing notes on the show. We've been scrambling here at Peak Around the Corner. Anyways, first of all, Rock and Rant, thank you so much for your incredible generosity once again to our show here at Peak Around the Corner, giving a gift membership. Holy smokes. Thank you, sir. Rock and Rant, you are hereby once again Cloak and Dagger Knighted. Thank you so much, Rock and Rant. Mr. Hurricane, and Buckshot Kid is once again granted Cloak and Dagger Knighted from the gift membership from Rock and Rant. Congratulations, Buckshot Kid. Also, I want to get to Super Chat before. Oh, that was it. Excuse me. My bad. Let me thank everybody who's come on in. Then we got to get to Ross Dellinger's article. I got to get to what I've been talking to people today on. It's bad cop. This, I don't know. Look, you guys know, Peek Around the Corner. I have been out in front. I have been supporting G5 access to the playoffs for 2026 and beyond. And what happened today, going from 6+6 to 5+7, gives them a shot to have playoff access for 2026 and beyond. It was a good day for the G5. They need tomorrow to be a better day because that's the most important day. Look, I am for the little guy. I am battling this. What you guys know where I sit on this. In fact, let me read you before I say thank you for everybody coming on in. Let me read you if I can find it real quick. Do you remember the poem? Do you remember the poem that you learned in high school or in college, junior high? It happened somewhere after World War II by Pastor Martin. I'm gonna butcher the last name. I apologize. Niemöller. I think it's either German or I don't know. I have no idea. But you remember this poem? First they came for the communist, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for me for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I didn't speak out because I was not a trade unionist, whatever that word is. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Do you remember that poem that you learned? History? That was written. Look, that's what I'm speaking out for the G5. So when consolidation happens, either right now, which I don't think it's going to happen when it comes to playoff access, or 8 years from now, when they come for the Big 12 or whatever remains outside the Power 2, I spoke up for the G5. And then I'm going to speak up for the Big 12 and the ACC or whatever those conferences are going to be called or whatever, however they exist. Okay? That's the lesson I'm putting out there early in this monologue. I'm speaking out right now because G5 is the buffer. If they have playoff access, then everything is cool. Because someday, when Minnesota Golden Gophers, my beloved team, gets lopped off and there's consolidation on the top of the Big Ten and the SECs, I'm going to be looking around and I'm going to be going, who's speaking for me? Nobody's going to be speaking for the Golden Gophers at that time, or at least most people in the chat room. I hope you guys all understood that. Cornelius Green, praise the Lord. Expedition Greg, Randy Taylor's in the house. Chad Bracey, Jim Phillips will express his disappointment tomorrow and nothing else will be said. Mireya Flugar is dancing. I'm not sure what that means. I will have to say this. Today, Mireya Hernandez Garcia Flugar, February 20th, today she becomes 52 years old. She was born February 20th, 1972. Mireya Flugar turns another years older today. Also, my mother, Maxine Roney Flugar, born 1933, February 20th. She turns 91 years old. So Mireya, 52, Maxine, 91, the two most important women in my life. Today is a big day for both of them. I already cooked dinner for Mireya, so don't give me a bad time about doing a live show right now. I already cooked Mireya a gourmet dinner. I cooked her hamburgers and I fried up some mushrooms. And no, there was no cheese placed on the hamburgers. Whose pants are these? Joe Z is in the house. Tu Masta is in the house. Becky Go Huskies more afternoon. PATC D5 Terps is in the house. Laura Weiss Red Raider is in the house. Ma Prof is in the house. Daniel is in the house. Nathan, Stephen Clark. Guest show Greg, great show Greg. Sergeant Pickles. Oh, how the turntables have turned. Sergeant Pickles is here. Joaquin Morales is in the house. Jay Copenhagen is in the house. Buckshot Kid. KS Barrett Finn. Immaculate. What a day. What a day. What a day. Steven just got here. He's in the house. Derek Marie, early peak member. Notre Dame is in trouble. We're going to talk about Notre Dame. That's on my notes. Notre Dame. Notre Dame. Interesting developments. Immaculate. It's nice to see some movement, but I don't think it means smooth sailing tomorrow and beyond. I agree with you. I agree with you. Hello, Greg and chat. Wishing a happy birthday to the wonderful ladies in your life. Thank you, Hamashiro. I appreciate it. Matthew Carlson is in the house. Happy birthday. Appreciate it. Ron Loney. Crab cakes and football. Okay. If I didn't get to everybody, I apologize. Replica is in the house. 52 years young. You got that right. I already screwed up. Okay. Before we get to the Ross Dellinger article, again, let's get through the news of this morning. Again, I'm not going to go through the whole article. Go check out episode 373 and 374 later tonight. We go into some details. But just as to tie everything up, Brett McMurphy put out a tweet. College football's playoff revised qualifying criteria for the 12-team event to include 5 highest ranked conference champions plus the next 7 highest ranked teams as determined by the selection committee. The 4 highest ranked conference champs will be seeded 1 through 4 and receive first round byes, regardless by the ranking by the committee. And I think everybody understands that. For example, Utah goes undefeated. They win the Big 12. I almost said the Pac-12. They win the Big 12. They're ranked number 3. The Buckeyes go undefeated. They win the Big 10. They're number 2. Georgia goes undefeated. They win the SEC. They go number 1. Florida State finishes 9-3. They win the ACC championship game. They're the 4th highest rated conference champion. They might be ranked number 10, number 9 in the playoff committee selection, but they would be the 4th seed in the playoffs. Therefore, the highest seed that Notre Dame could ever get in the playoffs is number 5. We'll get to Notre Dame later. That's not, people are debating whether Notre Dame is getting screwed or not out of this. A lot of Notre Dame fans say it's okay. It's okay if we're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's okay if we go 12-0 and get the 5th seed as long as we don't play in the conference championship game. I would disagree with them. At some times that might be an advantage to skip the conference championship game, but overall I think it's a slight disadvantage. Plus, I think Notre Dame is going to be looking up at a disadvantage here quite soon that we're going to talk about here at Peek Around the Corner. I don't think a lot of Notre Dame fans have an idea of what is about to come around the corner, but that's what we do here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. Now, also what happened, Dennis Dodd, I don't know if this is ultimately true or not. I've been told this tweet has been deleted. Sources told CBS Sports that Oregon State and Washington State received a few $1 million extra for 24 and 25. Whether that was directly responsible for Schultz switching his vote is not known. The Pac-2 had been asking for A5 status going forward, per reports. Again, I do not believe that whatever gets created for the new Pac-12, Pac-10, whatever they're going to call it, I don't think it's going to be considered a Power 4 conference. So they're not going to get the distribution model of a Power 4 conference. They're not going to get the voting rights of a Power 4 conference. But you know what? Maybe they did receive. I've been saying it. I thought that would be the compromise in the end. They would receive a little bit more than the G5 schools for the next 2 years just to move that vote to change the model that Kirk Schultz would ultimately vote for. I don't know if that happened or not. It wouldn't surprise me if it did. It wouldn't surprise me if it didn't. So I don't know about the accuracy of this news story. But anyways, here is the main part. Okay. The SEC and the Big Ten are expected to come with aggressive requests for more revenue, distribution model, and access, the format, which we're going to talk about here in the Ross Dellinger article. There have been talks of expanding beyond 12 and, or basically both, attaching multiple automatic qualifiers to their leagues. Sources tell Yahoo Sports. Now, we've touched on this. We've touched on this. Tony Petitti has been talking about multiple automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten and the SEC. I do not believe he's talking Big 12 and ACC. We're going to find out tomorrow. I think we're going to find out tomorrow if that includes all the Power 4 conferences or just the SEC and the Big Ten? SEC and the Big Ten are expected to come with aggressive request from Yahoo Sports. Now, I am going to, first, before we get into the Ross Dellinger article, I have to explain the title of the show. Power 2's Ruthless Aggression, Dallas, Texas. But then the second half of the title of this live stream, this live show is Sankey and Petitti are playing bad cop and bad cop. What they're doing, and I've been on the phone today and got to keep your head on a swivel. My head was swiveling. They are one. Petitti's taken one extreme. Greg Sankey is taking the other extreme. Let me repeat. Tony Petitti is pushing for one extreme. Greg Sankey is pushing for the other extreme. Both extremes benefit the Big Ten and the SEC, and they're making everybody choose one of the two extremes. Bad cop, bad cop. Now, I know the Big Ten and the SEC and people are going to be starting to chew me out. That's fine. That's what I'm here for. But it is bad cop versus bad cop. Let me tell you what I mean by that. And Ross Dellinger touches upon in the article. He doesn't call it the way I call it, but that's what's going on. Tony Petitti's walking around starting to push the idea of let's expand this thing to 16 teams. Let's go. Let's go. Expand it to 16. Oh, by the way, when we do that, there'll be more money coming in for everybody. We're going to take our larger cut, the Big Ten. Oh, and we're going to get multiple automatic qualifiers out of the Big Ten. And the number is going to surprise you, what that number is. It surprised the heck out of me. And then the SEC over here, Greg Sankey, he's pushing for the other extreme. We don't need to go to 16. I mean, I'm fine if we do, but we don't need to go to 16. We can stay at 12. But we would like for there not to be any automatic qualifiers. We would like there to be, just all at large bids open up for everybody. Well, the data shows us that if that's the case, the SEC is going to be averaging, 5 teams every year? Maybe more, I don't know. Big Ten, another 3 or 4. That's what Sankey wants. Probably more than 5, actually, some years. Which would leave more issues with the other conferences because everyone's going to get a flat base pay, right? Everyone's going to get a flat base. Every school is going to get a certain amount. We'll go into that later. That is going to be part of the fireworks that happens tomorrow. But every school is going to get a flat base pay, playoff distribution money. But if you have a school in your conference that advances, your conference is going to benefit and the school is going to benefit. So most of the years, at least the Power 4 conferences are going to be able to budget their budget to the fact that they're going to make such and such amount in playoff money. They're going to have at least one school in the playoffs. And the G5s are going to do that, and the Big 12 is going to do that, the ACC. But if you have them at all at large bids, and the SEC with ESPN being the mouthpiece, with them controlling the playoff content, and you know how it works. There's a lot of leaders in the college football world that cannot stomach what Greg Sankey is saying on one extreme, and they're not going to like what Tony Petitti is saying on the other extreme. Bad cop, bad cop. Here's your choices. And we'll get to it right now. That is what I mean by bad cop, bad cop. Let's get to, and again, I promise you, we're going to get to your phone calls real soon here. This is going to be a phone call led show because I think a lot of people have a lot of thoughts to put out. This article was just put out this afternoon. Ross Dellinger, new article, potential proposals from the Big Ten and the SEC seek more CFP automatic qualifier spots for the conferences. Now, this is going to get a whole lot of people upset, and I don't blame you. Here, peek around the corner, we've been talking about Power 2 since we opened up this channel, and this is what we were talking about. Power, influence, they're going to push all their chips to the middle of the table. It wasn't about cutting off playoff access for now for anybody, and we still think no one's playoff access is going to be cut off. But the Big Ten and the SEC gain more value through expansion, and this was the goal, right? To gain more power. Ross Dellinger, potential proposals. This is coming tomorrow. We're going to get a lot of ideas tomorrow. We'll get to that here. Washington State's President Kirk Schultz says the Pac-12 never planned to hold up the college football playoffs' latest format change, but he is worried about modifications to the format starting in 2026. The great gold rush, also the great unknown, including potential proposals from the Big Ten and the SEC that seek for the leagues to be guaranteed multiple automatic qualifier spots. Now, brace yourself. Brace yourselves, because I know a lot of you are probably thinking, okay, well, Big Ten, two automatic qualifying spots. They're not asking for just two. We'll get back here in the article. I worry about any league getting a certain number of automatic berths beyond their champion, said Schultz, a member of the College Football Playoff Board of Managers, made up of university presidents from each FBS league and Notre Dame. I wouldn't be alone in that. In a virtual meeting on Tuesday, CFP presidents adopted a long-expected change to the 12-team expansion format through the necessary unanimous vote, approving the move from 6+6 model to a 5+7 format for the 24 and 25 seasons. The change adds a large spot and decreases the automatic qualifying spots from 6 to 5 in light of the Pac-12 realignment situation. We all know that, right? Buckle up. Buckle up. We're getting to the PATC money shot of this article. Schultz delayed a vote on the issue last month in order to pitch a proposal to the board Tuesday seeking for the Pac-12 to retain its revenue and voting rights privileges as a Power 5 conference, starting with the new contract in 2026. There was not a lot of support for the proposal. Schultz said in describing the feedback from the presidents, yeah, you're just not going to get it, Schultz. I mean, no one knows what the Pac-12 is going to look like 2 years from now. But anyways, that is not the big story coming out of this article. Nonetheless, he voted for the move to change to a 5+7 format. However, Schultz expressed concern for potential format changes that could come in the future. The CFP Management Committee, the 10 FBS Conference Commissioners, and Notre Dame's athletic director are scheduled to meet in Dallas on Wednesday, tomorrow, in a critical gathering that is expected to produce ideas. Everybody knows the ideas, and potentially proposals for future revenue distribution, voting rights, structure, format, and all of them unresolved issues that are delaying the agreement for a new television contract with ESPN. So the expectations are produce ideas and potentially proposals. In other words, like I said at the beginning of the show, my expectations are a whole lot of kicking the can down the road, sprinkled in with fireworks. Right? Fireworks, resolutions, or kicking the can down the road. I expect a whole lot of kicking, a little bit of fireworks, and basically no resolutions. Once again, let me know in the chat room what you expect, and with your phone calls later here coming up real soon. Now, buckle up. Brace for impact. Buckle up. Brace for impact. If you're sitting right now, you better stand up. If you're standing, you better sit down. The SEC and the Big Ten are expected to want more revenue in the new distribution model, more authority in a voting structure, and maybe most notably, more access in a new format. Get a load of this. Get a load of this. My commissioner tells me there was an idea floated by a single league getting four automatic qualifiers into the playoffs. I got a feeling that that's the Big Ten. Tony Petitti. Bad cop, bad cop. My commissioner tells me there was an idea floated of a single league getting 4 automatic qualifiers into the playoff. Schultz told Yahoo Sports on Tuesday. You go, boy, that doesn't seem like it's going to be well embraced by football fans around the country. The commissioners are fantastic, but they are paid to look out for the betterment of their conference. The PATC money shot. My commissioner, the new commissioner, by the way, Teresa Gould, I think her name is. My commissioner tells me there was an idea floated of a single league getting 4 automatic qualifiers. SEC, Big Ten. Schultz believes that presidents should be more involved in such decisions and work alongside the commissioner group. And that I'm going to skip down here. Schultz describes Wednesday commissioners meeting as likely to produce critical ideas for the future of the CFP, and he hopes such proposals will be made public. He wants it out. He wants these extreme ideas, proposals to be put out there in public. I agree with Kirk Schultz. I hope they are put out in public. It might be contentious moving forward, don't you think? I want to make sure that the presidents are talking about these things before commissioners say, here's what's in front of you for approval. Hope you like it. There's a lot in flux right now. It's really, can we stay in the conversation? This is Schultz talking about the future of Oregon State, Washington State, and the new Pac-12 whenever it gets created. There is a lot to chew on there, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this does not come as a surprise to the PATC community. We've been talking about the great gold rush of 2026. We put out illustrations. We knew there was going to be fights, elbows being thrown. The battle, we've used the phrase battle over and over and over again. We knew this day was going to come, and it's happening tomorrow. Wednesday, February 21st. But the battle isn't going to end on the 21st. There's not going to be resolutions. There's going to be kicking the can down the road. There's going to be factions forming. It's going to get contentious. It's going to get cutthroat. It's going to get ugly. I would be shocked if it didn't. Because this is about the next 6 years. And before I get to your phone calls, Notre Dame, what are you going to do? Everyone's talking about how 7 at-large bids is better for Notre Dame. Yeah? Yes, for 2024 and 25. We don't know what the format's going to be for 2026 and beyond. And Notre Dame is not calling the shots. And Notre Dame, for the first time, is not being protected by the SEC when it comes to these talks. They've always been protected by the SEC and the ACC recently, but they're not getting that protection anymore. When we were talking about revenue distribution model, the SEC and the Big Ten, they're not looking out for Notre Dame. Notre Dame probably won't get the same amount of money as all the SEC schools. But probably get the same amount as the ACC and the Big 12. We'll see what happens eventually. But the SEC and the Big Ten, they're in their advisory group. Notre Dame is not. The SEC and the Big Ten are looking for, or the Big Ten especially, looking for multiple qualifiers. The SEC says, sure, multiple qualifiers for us or no qualifiers for anybody. They're not looking out for Notre Dame anymore. Notre Dame, this is a situation that they have never been in before. So we got to watch our reactions. Remember, in these groups, there's all these commissioners and there's Notre Dame. But 2026 and beyond, Notre Dame doesn't have the veto pen. They're just a vote. And their vote's probably not going to get weighted any more than a Wake Forest, than a North Carolina State, than a Kansas. Notre Dame has some decisions to make. Gorb, bless you and the little general. Thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate it so very much once again for your generosity. Ryan Willie, the evil badger. Dan Wetzel said on 365 Sports that Notre Dame helped draw up the 5+7 plan. The 5+7 plan is fine for Notre Dame. Yeah, they help. Here's the problem. And I saw that all through X and the message boards. And we're well beyond the 5+7. Fine. Notre Dame, that's good. But we're the SEC and the Big Ten are talking about different stuff now. Go for 2026 and beyond. Remember, the 5+7 is for 24 and 25. So congratulations to Notre Dame for getting what they want. They were part of this. But we're talking 26 and beyond. And Notre Dame's voice is now, it doesn't have the power that it had in the last 100 years. That's tell me I'm wrong with the phone calls and in the chat. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for your super chat, your generosity once again. Ryan Thomas, replace Bill Hancock with Immaculate. Holy smokes. You can't have a hot guy. You cannot have a hot guy in that spot. Holy smokes, Ryan Thomas. But I do appreciate your super chat. I do appreciate it so very much. We are going to open up the phone lines. I promised we're going to open them up and we're going to let them rock and roll. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot of things to say. The Power 2 Ruthless Aggression is on for tomorrow. Let us know what you think is going to happen. Kicking the can down the road, resolution, fireworks, a mixture of one of those three, or another category that you want to bring into it. 763-260-1, 1333, 763-260-1333. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, get your notifications on. Appreciate you coming on in.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, holy smokes. Today was a big day. Tomorrow's even a larger day. What do you think, sir? The floor is yours.
Well, right now my head's on such a swivel. It looks like that girl in The Exorcist. But, show some love to Immaculate, Greg. But, I have a couple thoughts of what the Big Ten pushing for 16 and four out of AQs possibly signals. I think that it signals two things. First of all, I don't think there's going to be, if they want 16 teams, I don't think there's going to be a break-off. And the reason why I say that is if you just have two conferences of 40 teams trying to fill 16 slots, those are going to be some terrible playoff games.
Yeah, there's not going to be a break-off right now, or ever, but it's not going to happen now. No.
Yeah, I mean, but my point is an expansion of the playoff means that it's more likely the G5 at least gets, one guarantee or some guarantee. And the other thing I think it also means the AQ's expanding. I think that the Big Ten and SEC know that they know they're going to carve up the ACC. I mean, I think, you can get away with more auto bids with fewer leagues. And, I certainly think that is a possibility. What I wanted to point out yesterday when I called in, but couldn't get through, was just because the Holy Smokes Theater signal wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
I wanted to sort of point out something about FSU and settlement. FSU needs to poison the well just enough to get ESPN not to exercise that option. And once that happens, the cost for settling drops well below $200 million, probably less than $150 million, probably around $100 million. Because, like I said, you've got 24, 25, and 26 are the last 3 years on the current agreement before the option's exercised. Texas and Oklahoma played 3 last years in the Big 12. This is not uncommon. This is to have a couple of years kind of on of a swan song. So I think that if that option doesn't get picked up, I think at that point it's every school for itself in the ACC. And at that point, you're only looking at exit fees, which would be negotiated probably 60% of the value. So that's why I strongly disagree in thinking that FSU doesn't need to settle for that much money. If they do, if FSU settles for $240 million and gets out, then ESPN's likely going to just pass on that option anyway, and it's going to result in the same thing I just described, and FSU would have wasted $240 million. I think that, if Clemson and leave and buy their way out, there's no way ESPN picks up that option because the value's gone.
Yeah.
And, I think that that's the thing. Now, I mean, are they willing to take the hit to grease the skids for everyone else to get out? Maybe, but they haven't been talking to each other. And, it'll be a very curious development, but I just don't think, I think FSU needs to keep threatening some dirty laundry just enough to the point that ESPN says, we don't want this getting out, so we're just going to say no thanks on the option. And at that point, they've got the ACC by the heels. They already do, but I mean, basically, there's nothing else. At that point, the ACC is like, it's like when you're out there fishing for walleye, Greg. At that point, the fish is out of the water and on the shore. So, I mean, I think that's likely what's going to happen. And I don't know how everything's going to get partitioned, but going back to my overall point, and then I'll get off so others can call in. I think that these positions, as far as, multiple AQ bids and expanding the playoff to 16, I think those are all sort of in anticipation of some more rating to be done. And the last thing is, the reason why I say immaculate for CFP, head is because he came up with the great idea of using conference tournaments instead to fill these playoff spots, so we wouldn't have to have 3 or 4 extra games and kill the athletes, overwork the athletes or hurt them or, increase physical, injury. But, what do we know? Anyway, take care,
my God!
guys.
Can't have a hot guy ask the head of the whole committee. Appreciate the phone call, Ryan. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Great call. Phone lines open, 763-260-1333. Now, there was a comment here that I had a severe blind spot by Movie Time Blues. Here we go. He keeps saying the walls are closing in. Maybe I do have a blind spot, Movie Time Blues. But I do think the walls are closing in. Maybe I'm wrong. We're going to find out, Movie Time Blues. We're going to find out.
Call from.
I did not get the name. Hello?
This is Lewis.
Lewis, thanks for calling, sir. The legendary caller, Lewis, Mr. Blue Devil. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, nothing that you're saying is surprising. Sankey's been drumming the 12 at large for some period of time in the automatic qualifiers. We'll see what happens. The only real leverage the rest of the schools have, they have 2 items. First, they could say, if you're going to do this, we just break off and then you're on your own, which I think they will not do because that's detrimental, but it would isolate the 40 schools to just play amongst themselves. And you still have enough fans otherwise, you still have a product. I don't think that's what happens. The other issue is you have to get the politicians involved. In most of these states have Group of 5 and ACC and Big 12 teams in the same states as these power conferences. And if you're talking about something totally ruthless, it's going to completely shut out the automatic bid. Because without the automatic conference championship game for the Big 12 or the ACC, maybe the ACC goes away, without that conference championship game automatic bid, it considerably reduces the value of the TV rights. As long as there's an automatic bid in place or a perceived automatic bid, there will be value in those TV rights. It won't be what the SEC and the Big Ten need or get, but it will be enough. So that's going to be the key. You have to maintain an automatic bid, put value in the conference championship game, and ensure that if you're the Big 12 or the ACC, you still get a seat at the table of some kind. If it goes short of that, then you have to go to, unfortunately, Congress, and it becomes political because, yes, the SEC and the Big Ten have the power to say we're not going to show up, and they have the best teams. There's no question about that. But you're still talking about carving out a lot of people with a lot of interests. Otherwise, I don't think it gets that bad. I think if Petitti's asking for 4 bids, The compromise is somewhere around 2. Remember, these are going to be their first offers in a negotiation, not their final offers. And so negotiation will be had because nobody wants to be called to Congress. We've seen presidents of universities get destroyed by going to Capitol Hill and testifying and losing their jobs. I don't think Petitti or Sankey or any of these presidents of the Big Ten and the SEC want to get called before Congress. That's what will happen if they do anything too drastic. It'll be somewhere in the middle. So that's my thought. Great show. Look forward to hearing the rest of it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lewis. Great call. I agree with Lewis. I've been saying it. I don't see a breakaway. Unless there's already enough court cases for the Big Ten. Yes, they don't want it. They don't want to break away, but they're going to use that leverage, right? They're going to use that threat. I don't see it. Lewis brings up a lot of good comments. Once again, some of these states, these politicians, we talked about Raleigh, North Carolina State. That's just one of them. There's many out there. Man, I do not see it happening. But again, and then Lewis makes up another great point where he said Big Ten started high, right? 4 automatic berths, maybe 3.
Call from
Immaculate.
Maybe they settle on 2. Can you hold on just 1 second, Immaculate?
Yep.
I'm just going to quickly finish up my thought. But, I sit here and, let's say the Big Ten gets, I don't think they're going to get it, but let's say the Big Ten gets 4 automatic qualifying spots. I know it's the new Big Ten. I know there's 18 teams, but, sometimes that 4th Big Ten team, they could have a lot of losses the way that schedule's. And I don't see 4 happening. Maybe 2. Maybe you get 2 SEC, 2 Big Ten. ACC, Big 12 gets automatic, so that's already what? 4, 5, 6. Then a G5, 7. And then you have 9 at large, 7, 9. I don't know. Immaculate, the floor is yours. Big day today, bigger day tomorrow. But I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of cans being kicked.
It's starting to feel like we're experiencing a real life example of the meme or the saying to continuously move the goalposts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're seeing that, where it's like, okay, we had to get the 5+7 figured out, right? That was just the thing for so long. And they get that done, and they immediately have their next demand ready to go.
Yeah.
And it just kind of feels like maybe there's never quite enough. And I don't mean that as like these guys are just super greedy and there's never enough. I mean, there's never enough because the CFP is nearing its end. And how do you get everyone?
What do you mean by it's nearing its end? What do you mean by that?
Same thing as the BCS neared its end.
I mean, the playoff system is gonna. I don't get what you mean. Like
the system as we know it, like this system where you have one conference championship game leads into a larger national tournament. I would say instead of the larger national tournament, they're going to pull back more to the conferences. We've talked about this, but it's just. But to come in here and be like, say, we want possibly to have 4 of our teams automatically qualified in this thing every year. That's, I mean, even at this point, I'm starting to sit here and go, as a Big Ten Iowa fan, I'm like, this is kind of ridiculous. Like this is too far. As a Big Ten fan, I was like, guys, we cannot say, oh, we need to get 4 teams automatically qualified at any time. It feels like they're pushing to a point when people will say, no, that's enough.
Yeah.
That this is not working. And then they'll say, okay, then let's figure out the next thing. That's what happened with the BCS. They had, it ended up having 2 teams from the same conference get in. It had the lowest ratings of them all. And 2 years later, they had a solution for it in the CFP. And now here we are, 2024, constant headbutting in the boardroom. No matter what finally gets done, there's always another hurdle to jump over. And we're 2 years away from 2026 when they have to create something, whether it's the CFP or something different. You know, I know I talk a bit with Ryan on the side, so he knows the depth of what I'm saying. And it's just an exercise. It's not like a prediction. It's just a point of saying, look, they could do something else. And this right here, just this idea, in my opinion, would make everyone happier than what's going on right now. That's not to mean that has to happen. But if I can come up with something, they sure as hell can. So I just think that we're at this point where they just keep adding another hurdle. And they're going to say something even more ridiculous. Like if they agree to 4 AQs, I mean, they're talking now.
Let me play devil's advocate.
What's that?
Let me play devil's advocate.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me play Gopher's advocate to a Hawkeye, okay?
Gotcha.
Same thing. You know, like Lewis just said, you know, maybe there's two things that are making this happen. One is, you know, the Big Ten, they're starting high with 4, right? They'd be probably very happy with 3 if they can
the
get
big ask.
2. Okay, that's probably one thing. The other part is the straw that is stirring the drink is the incoming ACC implosion. So the SEC and the Big Ten are trying to make it worth. They're trying to grow the value of the conferences, just like what they've been doing. They're trying to find ways to make sure if they include more schools, there's more access for the playoffs for their conference to reassure to get the votes for expansion, for their networks, for sponsorships, blah 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 blah. Internal politics. I think a lot of the incoming ACC implosion is throwing a wrench into all of this. So what do you? I know what you're saying. There's hurdles on hurdles, and it seems like it's never enough. Maybe you're correct. I'm thinking that it's the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12, preparing themselves for a different-looking conference in year 26 or 27. So they want to make sure they can form the playoff structure that can fit their new conference, which is going to be happening in a few years.
And that's I don't want to go too far into theory crafting on your show. I mean, you've got a full show to run here. We know I can do that on, but I'm just saying exactly what I'm talking about is like a conference tournament type of situation allows the Big Ten and the SEC to make what they're worth. It allows the Big 12 and the ACC to make what they're worth. It even allows the G5s to get conference tournaments put on TV because postseason is more valuable than the regular season, and then there's a lot less content. So it's just one of these things where it's like they don't have to sit in a boardroom and keep headbutting each other, and then you have a smaller tournament of champions or something from that. It's just less to have to agree on, and that's really my main point is. I think what we're seeing is that there's just this constant. It feels more like it's the NCAA now. You know, the CFP they created it, kind of be like, we don't want this to be like the NCAA. We want to be able to make decisions quickly, you know, amongst ourselves. But now it's kind of being like the NCAA. So I just question whether this is something that they actually want to, you know, continue in the long term, or at least in its size, or to make bigger, which is just going to make more arguments, you know. And if we go to 16, well, okay, well then now are we literally saying 4 AQs for the Big Ten and the SEC? Okay, well what does the Big 12 get? You know, I kind of think we're seeing the writing on the wall. Here's what I'm saying, and I could be wrong. And in terms of Notre Dame, real quick, and then I'll let you go so the next people can get on here.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a problem with this. You know, I mean, their football team is there also for student recruiting. And this allows them to have a home game in the playoffs. Whereas with a bye, you don't get that. And I think that they absolutely want to show off, their stadium. And whenever you have a home game and it's on TV, they go and they do, they showcase the
Well, they won't necessarily have a home game.
If they're in number 5 through number 8.
Well, sure, but that's the same for everybody.
Yes, it is. That's what I'm saying.
They're not gaining anything on that.
I'm saying they don't mind maybe being in that first round, because if you get a bye, you don't have that home field chance. You don't have that home field opportunity because you're just in the neutral sites. So, not that they wouldn't want that, but I don't think that it bothers them, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, yeah, that's fine. We just need to push for 5 through 8 so that we can have the home game. And if you think that, like, the networks and the folks in the CFP aren't looking at going, we'd love to have that home game at Notre Dame Stadium. We'd love to have that on TV. I think that they're going to get a friendly little nudge if they're like number 9 or 10 to nudge them up to number 8. So that way that home game is at Notre Dame Stadium. Just my opinion on that. I don't know. That's, a little conspiratorial or whatever, collusionary, but I just.
And what about Notre Dame's thoughts if they get left to a different tier than the SEC and the Big Ten when it comes to playoff distribution money and voting rights, those two issues?
They already are. I mean, if you go into the websites for the college football playoff and you look at the payouts, like, just not the per team that's participating, but they have one that's for the conferences and it's based upon how many teams you have now. But Notre Dame already has like this special little amount cut out for them. Yeah. So it's really, honestly, in my opinion, it's not that much. Like, it's not impressive at all. So, in my opinion, that's not new either. Now, maybe it gets worse, and maybe that affects them. I don't know. But I think the big talk about what's coming tomorrow has nothing to do with them, and it has to do with Big Ten and SEC trying to say that they want a higher conference payout than the Big 12 and the ACC, and that's going to cause a stir tomorrow. That's the storm I'm waiting to see, and I don't know what that's going to cause, because right now Big 12 has been very quiet when it comes to this stuff. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Beautiful.
But we're stop by tonight if you want, but we're gonna deep dive into this and into what we think on this. So looking forward to that. But yeah, hold on. I'm sure we're gonna be talking again tomorrow.
Yes. Tomorrow's a big day. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Appreciate it, Mr. Hot Guy.
Have yourself a good night.
All right. Great phone call by Mr. Hawkeye. Phone lines are open. 763-260-1333.
Call from
Crab Cakes and Football.
Crab Cakes and Football. Mr. Terrapin, what are you thinking, sir? The floor is yours. Beat P2, Ruthless Aggression tomorrow. What's going to happen?
Before I get to the Ruthless Aggression for tomorrow, I want to go back to yesterday and that Garfield dude that started chirping a little bit. At least name who your team's going to be before you start knocking somebody else's team. Now, with that out of the way, we'll go to – I don't think they need all automatic qualifiers because they no longer have divisions. Automatic qualifiers used to protect the upset-minded team, the Iowa, if they had 4 losses and they would have beaten Ohio State or Maryland, all the lower teams that just happened to go up and beat the dog that's supposed to win it all. Oh, wait a second. The upset happened in the national championship game. Okay, now they won it, but they're not going to make the playoffs because they're 25th in the rankings or not in the rankings or whatever, and it's kind of like they just fell off the face of the earth. That's what the automatic qualifier was supposed to originally protect. If they did the upset, they got their chance. Yeah, they probably lost, but they would at least get their chance. Now that they got open divisions, there's no more divisions, rather, for everybody. you're going to get a undefeated or one loss versus an undefeated or one, maybe two loss team every time, and they're going to be inside of the top. What is it? 12? 12
Yep,
most likely.
Most likely.
So the automatic qualifier has been defeated in a way because I mean, unless you're trying to find a way to get Penn State or someone like that who always seems to fall short for some odd reason. And, in there, I can see them trying to twist arms there, but, I just don't think automatic qualifier needs to be there because you're going to get your top guys.
Maybe that's part of the reason Petitti is pushing for more than one automatic qualifier.
I mean, if they want to go for two and you want to recognize the two that played in the championship game, the Big Ten or the SEC or whatever, okay, because they're playing an additional game, they're beating each other up, possible injury, everything else, just for one team to go. I don't even have a shot. Even if we beat you, we're not going to get the grand stage. We're going to be the Reliquist Bowl or something. And the other one's like, hey, we're CFP bound. Well, maybe if they protect the second team that's in the equation who doesn't have that great of a record. But like I said, that's gone now that you're going to have open divisions. So there's going to be one division. So it's everybody who's towards the top is going to be playing someone towards the top, or at the top, rather. So that's one. Second, I hope they come up with a plan for ranking. I want someone fair ranking. That way, no one's like the SEC, Big Ten, or anybody else is doing. Hey, this team is sitting just outside of the top, 12, but they got to win over so and so. Never mind that they got a bad loss or two bad losses, and we want to try to get them in there because we think the numbers are going to be better. I want there to be like, okay, who's the top 12? And this is the top 12, fair top 12, and go from there. I mean, because I don't want, like you saw this past year, where, Texas kind of deserved it a little bit, but, FSU got left out, and then you had Georgia dropping all the way out. And if that would have been, the back half of the 12-team playoff, then you're looking at Georgia missing out and a couple other FSU missing out because of politics, basically. So, they need to come up with a fair, way to rank these teams to where they're being punished for bad losses, they're being rewarded for good wins and great wins, and home and away and everything else. Because sometimes I feel like the SEC and the Big Ten, I'm not going to say the Big Ten doesn't do it, they pull a little bit of strings to get more in than what needs to. Because last year we only had really one really good team, and that was Michigan. Ohio State was okay. Iowa was pretty good, but none of them were really threatening the top tier like what Michigan did. But if that would have been, let's say, a 12-team playoff, you might have gotten 2 to 3 in. I don't even know if you can get it. You can name a fourth. Well, that's right, Penn State. So fourth in, but I don't know if they deserve to be protected. So that's my thoughts on that. And I hope I really stay away from financials because I'm not very good with financial talk. But I just hope they are fair to everybody, including the G5, because G5 is going to need to survive somehow. And the big dogs getting more money I just don't think that's necessary all the time. They're already getting a huge contracts.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, that's all I really had for you.
Beautiful call, Crab Cakes. Appreciate it, man.
All right.
You have a good one.
Talk to you later.
Here's the thing. It would be great if we could just wait to see how it plays out this year. This new playoff format, expansion, 12 teams, 4 levels of incentiveness. The first level, be the top 4 conference champion, get a bye, get the 5, 6, 7, and 8th seed, have a home game, 9, 10, 11, 12, you get into the playoffs, and see how it works, and see the fun, the drama, and then we can decide for 2026 and beyond. But it doesn't work that way. Not right now. Because ESPN they're threatening to pull the contract. People want to know what the heck is going on for 26 and beyond because everyone's got budgets. Everyone wants to know how much they're going to make. Even if they have a shot to get in. Everybody wants to know. Plus realignment. Whatever. And here's another.
Call from
Bobby.
Bobby, the floor is yours. Thanks for calling. What do you got to say, sir?
It's your show was built for this, Greg. If ever your show was built for anything, it was built for this.
Yes, I agree.
You are in your heyday for this. No, to me, there is a certain amount of money that's associated, obviously, with the number of participants, I think, in the conference playoffs. So isn't this a way for Petitti saying, I want 1/3 of the money, in a way, at least for some of it? Just a thought. I mean,
I happen to think, Bobby, and I could be wrong. I happen to think that pushing of the 4 automatic qualifiers starting high, I think that has to do with a 16 playoff format. I think that's what he's looking for. And
if there's 16 teams, I think historically, if you look back, the Big Ten would have gotten 4 pretty much every single year. In fact, and I want to give credit where credit is due. I think there's a website called The Voice of College Football where they do all kinds of teams and stuff. But he did an analysis. If you did the 12-team playoff, and he went back like 10 years, and the Big Ten averages in that system with the new additions, it would have averaged at least 3 participants every single year. In a good year, like a really great year, it might have gotten 5. But in a good year, it would have gotten 4. But it pretty much got 3 every single year. So asking for 4 in a 12-team playoff, and the reason is that you wouldn't often have gotten that 4th team in is because of conference championship games. And say your championship, if you get 3 losses, you were basically in 12 teams, you're out. There's just no room in a 12-team playoff for a 3-loss team. Well, say you were 10-2 and you lost in your conference championship game, you're out. And I wonder if it isn't just trying to protection that if we want to keep our conference championship game, but we don't want to lose that team then as a participant.
Yes. Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. You don't want to lose the value of the championship game. The winner probably is going to get a bye or get some great advantage in a 16-team playoff, but the loser is going to get in automatically. Great point. Great point, Bobby. Continue.
Oh, that would happen, I think, and so, but if you have a guarantee of 4 spots, you can choose whoever plays in your conference championship game and not worry about if one of them loses. They're going to get in. Yeah, I just wonder if these aren't the things that are kind of in Tony Petitti's mind. Certainly with in a 16-team playoff, 4 is not that big a deal for the Big Ten. Like I say, I think especially with how it currently, the number of participants in it, that 4 is actually almost low. I mean, to be honest with you. And also realize the Big Ten is approaching 20 teams, especially if it adds another 1 or 2 here coming up.
Yeah.
Well, if it was a 10-team conference and they wanted 2 guaranteed spots, would anybody complain?
Yeah.
Well, if it's a 20-team conference
yeah,
and you want 4 guaranteed spots, it's the same ratio.
Yeah. You're making great points, Bobby. Tony Petitti should hire you, get you a plane ticket, fly to Dallas, Texas tomorrow. It's not going to be done by virtual call. There's going to be bodies in the room. Bodies are going to be hitting the floor. Bobby, you got to be there. You got to be there.
I don't need to be there. I need to be there like I need a hole in the head. And Tony Petitti doesn't need me. I'm a hayseed from Iowa, man. I don't. I would hope he has much smarter people than me working for him. I hope to God. The other point that I don't think I've heard anybody make, and I have no idea, has anybody applied the Dartmouth situation to Notre Dame's football program? Meaning, wasn't it Dartmouth where the students said they can now unionize for sports?
Yeah, because they're in a conference in which all the schools are private institutions.
Yes.
The
Notre Dame's football is independent.
Yeah.
Now their Olympic sports are in a conference with public institutions, so they're protected.
Yeah.
But their football is independent. They can't make the same argument. And if you need one player, you need to get a couple of players who decide they want to form a union. Now, Notre Dame is so dedicated to independence, they might say, look, if they want to unionize, great, we'll deal with it. We want independence more than that. That's fine, but on the other side is if they want protection from that, now think about this. If they want protection from that, what is the solution? To be a member of a conference with state schools.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
If they want protection from the potential of some of their football players forming a union, the answer to that is this is why Northwestern and Duke don't have to do it, because they're in conferences with other state schools.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, that's kind of a holy cow.
Now, but the National Labor Relations Board, they in the USC case that's going on right now, okay, they're suing. They're going after the conference in the NCAA. So if
I don't know how they do both of those things,
but that's in their case. I'm not a lawyer, but that's in their case. So if USC loses that case, then Notre Dame joining a conference with public schools, that protection will no longer hold. So
and that's true. That's true. And I know when it comes to unions, public institutions follow a different set of rules than private, and I have no idea what all those differences are. And but I just thought I just had never heard anybody take the Dartmouth case and apply it to Notre Dame football. And I think it's an interesting, like you often say, the walls are closing. I mean, there's just a lot of things that just look like they kind of square in around Notre Dame on a lot of these things. But they're dedicated to independence, and God bless them. That's their right. So, but thanks, Greg. Great show. You're doing awesome. And like I say, enjoy this week. This week was made for your show.
Yeah. Yep. Appreciate it, Bobby. Great call. Thank you, sir.
God bless. Bye, man.
We would like to think here at Peek Around the Corner that every week in the off season, during the season, is made for this channel. But I understand what Bobby's saying. I understand what he is saying. Again, my point early before the call was, man, I wish we could see how this would play out. And I think it's going to play out great, this new playoff format. But again, there needs to be a decision made for 2026. ESPN is threatening to pull out. Everybody needs to know where everything lies for 2026. Plus, we have this realignment thing going on. Probable wave of conference realignment.
Call from
JD.
JD, Mr. Seminole is on the line. The floor is yours. What are you thinking, sir?
I'm going to go ahead and volunteer to be the evil capitalist here, okay?
Got it.
And,
you're the capitalist. Got it.
I don't blame the SEC and the Big Ten one bit. They are driving the boat as far as media, valuations, viewership, everything. There's a lot of college football that really fan interest has dropped off. Okay? And the benefit of moving to a 12, and I hope a 16-team playoff comes, is you know how it is in the NCAA tournament? Making the tournament is a big deal. Sweet 16 is a big deal. Elite 8, Final Four, those are big deals. And but your previous caller, one of the things that he said that I thought was vital, see, I don't want conference championships to go away. I don't want conference championship games to go away. Not everybody can win the national championship.
Yeah.
Winning a conference is a big deal. And I don't want it to be awarded because you just played a weak schedule.
Yeah.
Okay? I want you to at least have to win the game.
I agree. I agree. Yep.
I think there's going to be some interconference playoffs for maybe some of the G5s. Hey, maybe for the Power 2. But, you know, I agree with you. I don't want to keep them out of the party. And when you were talking a few minutes ago about, you know, basically other things will come, will morph, will materialize as we move forward. And if the G5s have a little more autonomy, maybe they have the ability to crown their own champion, but not to be eliminated from the college football playoff. Maybe they're coming up with their own automatic qualifiers. You know, maybe they get a chance to get 2 in there. And it's not just based on who, you know, had the better schedule. They actually won it on the field. That's the thing about that I love the direction that the playoff is going, is that, you know, sometimes you have to sit here and wonder whether or not all the SEC teams or some of the other conference teams got the benefit of the doubt. I want the best team to win because it's unmistakable. I mean, it's just they are the best team. And teams get hot. You know, I can't tell you how many more national championships FSU would have if there was a playoff back in the Bobby Bowden years. His teams traditionally got pretty hot at the end of the year, you know, and they didn't have the benefit of the college football playoff. Well, that's just the day and the time that we lived in. So it is what it is. It's not sour grapes. It just that's the way that the system was set up. But no, I'm actually kind of excited about it, and I think now that we've entered the playoff system, there's always going to be a playoff.
Yep.
You know, and I don't know.
Did you happen to watch the Monty show this morning at all?
I did not. I'm fairly new to that. I've just caught a couple of clips, but apparently he's really popular, so I'm going to start watching him a little bit.
Well, I maybe for Florida State fans, he's not popular, but
okay.
Yeah, okay. I was just wondering if you'd watch it because I'll let that discussion go for another day once you've watched them a few times.
Well, what was he alluding to this morning?
Well, no, I thought you had a history of watching him, but somebody in Tallahassee must have done him wrong years ago because man, he's on Florida State constantly. So I was just wondering if you saw him today. But anyways, let's not talk about it because
no, I mean it's for any quote unquote national brand, and I'm not going to be arrogant enough. Well, I wouldn't. It wouldn't bother me to say it, but you know, FSU is known as a national brand, so there's love and there's hate. There's people that just absolutely despise them, and then there's a lot of people throughout the country that their favorite team might be, you know, Minnesota, and but their second or third team is Florida State, and so, but you know, we're used to that. I mean, the hate that comes from Gators and Canes and other fan bases and SEC fan bases. I mean, we're just kind of used to it. And
he was saying today that the NCAA looks down at Florida State. Big Ten doesn't want Florida State. I mean, man, a year ago he talked about Florida State's value not being all that great. There would be no place for them to go if they left the SEC. I mean, there's something going on with him, or he just doesn't know better. But I got a feeling that there's something happened to his past. But I thought you knew about him more, so I don't want to get into a month.
I've watched a couple of clips, and I've watched one time where he was bashing FSU, but I didn't really pay him a lot of attention. I'm trying to catch up more on the YouTube folks, just because media is changing so much, and the YouTube folks like yourself. I mean, you're one of the few that is very careful that the information that you're trying to put out, you're trying to make sure is factual, and if it's a rumor, you're very careful to couch that it is definitely a rumor. This is not verified, and you go ahead.
I appreciate you saying that, because there's still people out there that says Pflugar throws a whole bunch of things against the wall. I spend most of my time making decisions that I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to do that, that's pretty much all I do. So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you, sir.
Well, you've got some reputable people. I think I remember from the past that have chimed in. And I'm going to assume that some of the national medias, they maybe you talk to them, or maybe there's opportunities to communicate with them, and it seems like you're good at keeping confidence.
Yeah, I have, but we are an independent college football YouTube channel. There's no strings attached. But yeah, I've been able to build a lot of great relationships with a lot of great people. That's as far as I will go with that. But yes, you are correct.
On a side note, the C.W. Lambert, I saw you responding to what he posted today.
Yeah.
Something about a membership clause.
Yeah.
I thought he was insinuating something separate than the composition clause. I think that's what he's referencing, but he made it sound like it as an individual team can leave, and then it would cause a contract. Were you able to get anything more out of that?
No, because it doesn't make a difference. Like, how do I say this? It doesn't matter. In other words, if any school leaves the ACC first, it's going to be Florida State, right? Okay,
sure.
Let's put it this way. 95% chance Florida State's the first school to leave the ACC. There's a 5% chance that Notre Dame will be the first one. But 95% of Florida State. Okay, so Florida State leaves, of course ESPN is not going to carry their same media contract. They're to decline it. So I think we're trying to, it doesn't matter. I'm at that point where it doesn't matter. If Florida State gets out, those ACC schools are going to have a new media contract.
Sure.
So now whether it triggers the new media contract, they're just going to have a new media contract, and it's going to happen real fast, or they're going to have to explore to get a new one. ESPN's going to back away, whatever. It doesn't matter, in my opinion. So I kind of just...
Sure, I get your point.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing that really raised alarm was when he's throwing out a separate clause. It's like a reverse pro rata the membership, because we've heard the composition clause. I mean, we've heard the composition clause for a few years now, 2, 3, 4 years. But the he was talking about I thought he was insinuating a separate clause, a membership clause, and I'm like, so if one team leaves, it triggers a renegotiation, and then he's talking about the significant drop in media value. If that was the case, well, then the ACC would fight to the death, because, I mean, if you're going to say that ACC teams now will be making $10 million a year versus what they would have been making before, I mean, they're going to fight every way to keep FSU or anybody from leaving. But we're hearing little rumors. One poster that actually is very reliable, very, very reliable, was suggesting that he was hearing that ESPN has made it clear to the ACC they want this wrapped up. So I think the negotiations will happen sooner rather than later. They apparently, FSU went down a road ESPN didn't expect them to go, and so it's I'm hoping we hear something early, late spring, early summer is what I'm hoping. I don't want to have to wait all the way till August. I'm ready to get this done, and I like talking to you, but I'm sorry I take up so much of your time, because when much of this gets so fascinating, and
no problem.
I need other people to kind of call in. I'll still call in from time to time, say hello, but I need other people to take my spot. But I have to pick your brain, man. I have to. So
all right, tomorrow's a big day, so I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Great call by JD. Greg, I have no strings attached. Flugar. Yes. Genetics 56 is not my best enemy. Genetics 56 is not an enemy. He is not qualified.
Call from
BJ.
BJ, can you hold on 1 second?
Sure, yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah, Genetics 56 is not. He is not my enemy, because he just doesn't even rise to that statue. John, Super Chat, if it hits the fan and the ACC breaks, would Stanford, California, Oregon State, Washington State, Syracuse, Boston, Wake, Duke, SMU, Tulane be an auto bid? Great question. Great question. It all depends on when it breaks. That is a great question. There's no way I have an answer for that, John. Now the Pac, the new Pac-12 that's going to be born here from Washington State and Oregon State's war chest. If they become an 8-team conference, they can be an automatic, right? If they're one of the top, if their conference champion in the years ahead becomes one of the top 5 ranked conference champion, how it's formatted right now, that's going to change. Yes, then it can be an automatic qualifier. If it's one of the top ranked. So in theory, yes, John, that ACC conference, but their conference champion is going to have to be one of the top 5 rated conference champions. But again, by the time the ACC breaks and has to reform itself, we'll be in a whole new playoff format. So I don't have the answer, John. So many things are changing. Appreciate the super chat, John. I appreciate the continued generosity you've given to the show. BJ, thank you so much for your patience. The floor is yours, good man.
What's up, Greg? Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, nice to talk to you, sir.
So I had a couple of things to kind of speak on. First, as a retort to what John just commented on, I think by 2026, outside of the SEC and the Big Ten, there won't be anything such as an automatic qualifier. So I think it may be a 3+9 or at the very least 4.
Well, let's be clear on something though. In 24 and 25, nobody has an automatic bid. The Big Ten doesn't have an automatic bid. Nobody has it. It's the top
Correct.
5 ranked conference champions get an automatic bid, and it's probably the Power 4 conferences are probably going to be 4 of those 5 because it would take 2 G5 conference champions to be ranked better than the worst of the Power 4 conference champion. But technically, there is no automatic bid for 24 and 25. It sounds like Petitti is pushing for automatic bids for at least the Big Ten and the SEC. But go ahead, BJ. Sorry for the interruption.
No, yeah, that's right. And because if you guys remember, a year or so ago, Sankey didn't want any auto bids.
And he still doesn't.
And it was the alliance
he's pushing one or the other extreme, basically.
Exactly. And I think he's doing it on purpose just to be, difficult. But
yeah.
But I think like a couple years ago, but when the alliance formed, Sankey wanted no auto bids, and the other 3 wanted, some kind of protection.
Yeah.
And I think what the Big Ten did was strategically buy some time with this fake alliance, get a stronger conference, and when they picked up the teams they picked up, and then when they came back to the table, now Petitti is like, okay, I only want automatic bids for me and Sankey. So ultimately, I think the ACC, whatever's left of that, the Big 12, they're going to be playing a second-tier ball, and they won't get a team in the tournament on a consistent basis, in my opinion. I think Sankey and Petitti, the Petitti guy.
Yeah.
I think they're just playing the role. I think ultimately they're buying time for decisions to be made in the courts to figure out what they can do with this Power League.
Yeah.
And see where they can kind of run the numbers and see what they can afford the liability when it comes to departing and creating your Super League, because there's a lot of money involved that's off the field that fans won't see value in, but as a business, how the players are going to get paid, are the players employees, are they not employees? If they're employees, they're getting paid. Do they qualify for scholarships? Because now scholarships are a need-based entity. So there's a lot of other things that have to be played out.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think they're going to break away, in my opinion. Maybe 10 years from now, but they're going to be
maybe 10 years from now. I just don't think it can happen now for a lot of court reasons, for one. But what about this, BJ? Let me throw you a question.
Shoot.
So we're looking at tomorrow. We're looking at fireworks, resolution, kicking the can down the road. I think there's going to be a lot of kicking the can down the road with a little bit of fireworks sprinkled in there. My first question to you, what do you think is going to be the results of tomorrow? The second question I have for you, how much do you think, BJ, if you believe there's going to be some cans being kicked down the road tomorrow, how much of that do you believe, and I think you might have partially answered that question, but how much of you think is because the SEC and the Big Ten want to make sure whatever is developed for 2026 and beyond, whatever structure is developed, playoff access, distribution model, whatever is developed for 2026 and beyond, there's some flexibility built in there just in case both those conferences grow in numbers, just in case the ACC implodes.
I think this is going to happen. My just off-the-cuff opinion. I think I look at it like a business acquisition. Once a new business comes in and takes over, they don't fire everybody off the rip. They keep people around for like a year or so until they get an assessment of what they have, right? And I think tomorrow is just going to be an assessment. I think the Big Ten and the SEC don't want any tag-alongs in this new deal. There's a whole bunch of money. They don't think the Big 12 nor the ACC is entitled to their same cut. But they have to do it in a political, strategic way. And I think first off is the 5x12, the 5+7 deals done. And I think the Big Ten, the SEC, and Fox and ESPN want a clean bill when the 26th season starts. And what that means is Florida State, North Carolina, Miami, Clemson, Virginia, what conference will you be in? I think until that is resolved, there won't be any kind of movement, significant movement on the 2026 CFP.
Yeah.
I mean, because why would you commit to something long term when the volatility of the football has been so astronomical over the past 5 years?
Yeah, but like ESPN, they want a longer term deal. So whatever they figure out for 2026, they can build some flexibility in there, and I think they will. But there's a limit to it. I mean, ESPN's got to know the parameters of what this college football playoff thing is going to look like for 2026 to 2032. So I don't know.
Greg, I'll say this too. Like, even you look at the percentage change. Sankey knew that years ago. He knew that they were going to ask for more money.
Yeah.
And so I think him and Petitti are going to ask for about 70%, because when you look at the numbers of teams who make the playoff, about 70% of the teams were SEC Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
Right? And I think they're going to run off with about 35% apiece. And I think the remaining 30% are going to be divvied up between I call them the G7, but people get pissed at me for saying it. But in essence, the ACC, the Big Ten is only going to get, and the G5, it's only going to get one team in the playoffs. They're not going to get like 2 and 3 teams in the playoff year in and year out. So I think they're going to split up, the 30% is going to be split up between those 3 entities, maybe, 12, and 5 or something. Percent for the remaining leagues, but it just when you look at it, I don't want to belabor the point. When you look at it, it is inevitable. We live in a business-oriented, society.
No.
The Big Ten and the SEC generate more money considerably, and as a football fan, I like the idea of the little guy can win, like TCU.
Yeah.
But from a business standpoint. I don't want to see TCU on my TV screen. No offense, right? And not just me, the fans don't, right? Because when Alabama played Michigan, there was 26 million people watch that game, right?
Yeah.
So,
I understand. I get it. I understand it, but
I don't like it as a fan. But as a business guy, it makes too much sense.
Yeah. But as a business sense, I want those TCU Horned Frog fans tuning in, and I want them tuning in because at the beginning of the season, they had access to get to the playoffs. In other words, I think this sport of ours that love it so much is going to hurt themselves if they start eliminating pathways for major college football programs or fan bases. I get what you're saying. It's just like Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball would rather have the Yankees and the Dodgers go to the World Series every year. But you got to build in the ability for the Kansas City Royals and Minnesota Twins, some other small, to be able to somehow miracle shot, get to the playoffs, get to the World Series. You have to have that built in for there to be credibility for the World Series, just like you need to have it built, in my opinion. The college football playoffs, I think it's going to have more credibility. Everybody's buying in if you don't cut off playoff access for everybody in FBS.
I got you. I'll counter you with this. And this is not my opinion, or I can see Sankey and his cronies making this argument, right?
Yep.
So there's about 30 plus teams in each professional league, right? I think they've studied how Americans watch sports. They're modeling the football after a pro product. And I think they said, you know what, we only need about 40 brands, right? The other brands, we're banking on the fact that even though TCU may be your favorite team, you're going to tune in and watch Texas because they still cover your region. Or you may tune in and watch Oklahoma.
But the college football is different, though.
I agree. I agree. But I think that's what Sankey and the folks who do this for a living, I think that's what they're going to – I think they're going to be like, we need 40 brands that cover the vast majority of the country. The only part of the country that's really not represented, to be honest with you, it is Kansas, Iowa, Colorado, Utah, right? Yeah. California, the West Coast is covered. The SEC covers the South. The Big Ten covers everything else. And so when you look at the numbers, if I'm looking at the numbers, how many people in Kansas actually watch the game? Oh, let's say 2 million people. Right? Okay, we can do without 2 million. Cool. We don't. So I think when you look at it that way, I think they're looking at it like a professional organization. And Petitti came from the professional leagues, right? So we're going that way, whether we want to accept it or not, and whether we like it or not. I think they're thinking, what else are you going to do on a fall Saturday in a small college crowd? There's not much. It's ingrained in us to watch football every Saturday from August to December. To get our minds to do something else and not watch TV, to watch something else, I think they know it'll be hard pressed for Americans to give up college football. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All righty. Beautiful, BJ. Beautiful call. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
You got it. Call again, sir. Now, as a college football fan, see, this is why I am so excited for 2024. I am so excited. I think it's going to be beautiful. Hear me out now. Hear me out. I think this is going to revolutionize. I think this year is going to make a big, impactful imprint on the foreheads of most college football fans. In regards to, you're going to be paying. I'm going to finish this point. I swear I'm going to finish this point.
Call from
Replica.
Okay, can you hold on 1 second, sir?
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. This season, I think is going to make such an impact because everybody's going to be paying attention to everything. People are going to be consumed by everything. People are going to be talking about the difference between Conference USA and the MAC. Because who's winning the MAC right now? Who's winning Conference USA? Which team is the higher rated? Because they have the ability, the pathway to get to the college football playoffs. Same thing, Big 12 champion. Are they going to get the third seed, the fourth seed? Are they going to get a first round bye? Probably one of those teams who it's going to create so many more layers of incentive, excitement. The people who say that the 12-team playoffs devalues the regular season, I don't even understand that. It's going to make everything more valuable. A 2-loss team going into week 9 still going to have a chance to get to the college football playoffs, most likely. And so when we're talking about the college football fan, and I get the big business part of it. I get it. Of course, you can see the data. Michigan, Alabama, the big brands playing each other more often creates bigger ratings, more money for everything. But there's also other aspects to this economically that's better for college football. In other words, student athletes to have the platform to play G5, give them the opportunity to have a scholarship, go to school, jump into a Power 4 conference school in 1 or 2 years if they're good enough, get better opportunities. Those front porch of those universities, those athletic directors, those athletic departments of the G5, being able to grab that playoff money, be $3-4 million a year, going to pay for a lot of scholarships with their other schools, with their other sponsored sports, helping more student athletes, again, get those scholarships, get that education. I get the big business aspect to all of this. But I got a feeling that this season is going to press upon everybody is going to be paying attention to everything, not just the top 4, 5, 6 schools. They're going to be paying attention to the top 25 schools, G5 schools that they've never paid attention to. I think it's going to drive revenue to places we've never seen before. So I'm very optimistic. I hope playoff access does not get cut off. But I understand the big business, short-term, big business success if you did cut off some people. But I think in the long run, it's better for the sport if you do not. I appreciate the patience, caller. The floor is yours.
Hello, Greg. Just wanted to first off say, love the show. Keep up the good work. How's everybody doing tonight? I just wanted to push back on this whole breakaway nonsense that people can't seem to wrap the idea that that's not going to happen because the most important person in the room doesn't want to break away. Like, Greg Sankey does not want to break away, even with the Big Ten. Like, even with this advisory board and they're coming together.
Yep.
Understand there's only a few things that these two conferences have in common. First off, financially, they're comparable. Even though the Big Ten has a little more money, they're comparable. Secondly, they want the most representation, the best opportunities for their conferences. But how they're going about it is completely different. And I was really surprised when I heard that Petitti is asking for 4 AQ spots, which would presumably be in a 16-team playoff.
Yeah.
That does not vibe with what Sankey and his university members want. They just want the 12 best teams because through the institutional advantages they've built up over the last 15 years as far as recruiting, ESPN bias, having schools in towns that don't have pro sports teams. And I think people seem to forget that. Like the Big Ten schools, either in Chicago, New York, Baltimore, these are major pro sports markets compared to the SEC markets. This is all they have. Like, I'm a lifelong Texas fan, born and raised in Fort Worth. It's 3S, faith, family, football. And you can just find that just about everywhere in the South.
Beautiful. What's your name, by the way? I didn't get your name.
Replica.
Replica. Oh, okay. You're in the chat all the time. Thanks for calling, Replica. I appreciate it. Go on. Continue.
Yeah. Let me pick up my train of thought. But, yeah, they're not going to break away because that's not what they want. And I would advise everybody to pay attention to how these negotiations go, not just today, but going forward, because you see two different trains of thoughts. Petitti wants AQ spots to protect his conference and his members, and Sankey wants just the 12 best because he feels like his schools are just better. And that's another thing people need to understand. Just because they have an advisory board and they're working towards a new model, that doesn't mean that Greg Sankey and the SEC views the Big Ten on their level, like they're looking eye to eye. That would be ridiculous. Like, the Big Ten has 2 national championships in the modern college football era, which is 2000 and beyond. The Big 12 has 2, and one of them was admired in a cheating scandal. The ACC has 3 or 4, I believe. Yeah, they have 4, because Miami had one in 2001, FSU had it 13, and Clemson's one too. So when we actually sit back and really think about who are, like, this quote-unquote power 2, that's financial. That's not on the field. Because on the field, the Big Ten hasn't been the best conference. And honestly, the Big Ten has, outside of Ohio State, really hadn't shown up in the playoff era until Michigan came around this year. And I don't think that these 2 conference commissioners can afford to really play that game where they want to break away, because that takes you into a whole different realm. Remember, these athletes are no longer going to be considered amateurs. Like, this is moving towards professionalism. That opens the door for any entity to come in, as long as they have the funds and can work within U.S. laws to establish their own league. And For example, look at what the G League did to college basketball. Look at what the Euro League and players like LaMelo Ball going over to leagues like Lithuania. That's not a premier European league, but he was still able to go number 2 in the draft. He's an all-star max contract. So the path has been shown that you don't have to go to college to make it to the NBA. What if that same thing happened in football? It could be the NFL forming their own affiliate leagues. You could have the XFL. You could have a completely new entity come together that people aren't even thinking about right now. These sports teams and being a part of these leagues, that's a status symbol for wealthy people. So, and Sankey and Petitti understand that. So they want to, have domain over their sandbox. They don't want to leave the sandbox and have to be on the beach because the beach has people that's not in the sandbox, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree. I don't think this is about breakaway. Power 2's is about power, influence, money. That's what the Power 2 is about. Not about breaking away at this point in time. Maybe 8-10 years down the road.
Right.
Not now.
But even with that, like the concept of there being it's really a house of cards because it's just financial. All it's going to take is one mistake for Petitti to press it a little too far and really rub those SEC schools the wrong way. And that advisory board, the supposed alliance, that could come crashing down very quickly. Remember what happened with the last alliance between the Big, the ACC, and the Pac-12. The Pac-12 isn't here anymore. And the ACC isn't going to be here in the same capacity in a couple of years. And just a couple of years ago, they were aligned against the SEC. So we're not that far removed from this public posturing of them being against each other. So I would just caution on that. And I think what this negotiation is, what I would do, there needs to be like a set amount. So right now it's an 80-20 split. I think if this next deal gets finalized, you'll see something similar, or maybe the percentage goes up a little bit. Maybe I would say no more than like 85, because there's going to be a massive cash influx. So even if the percentage goes down, those G5 schools are about to get way more money than they could access on their own or even thought about years ago. And what I think will happen is the Big Ten and the SEC will have slightly more money than, I would say, just the Big 12. Cause I don't think the ACC is going to be a power conference once this new 2026 comes around. You're going to have FSU, North Carolina, Clemson, Miami. They're going to leave. And once that happens, there's no incentive for Louisville, a Virginia Tech, a school with a lot of history, to stay. So we'll see how that shakes up. But I think there will be a base pool of money where they'll slightly get more, and then I believe there needs to be another pool of money set aside based off purely performance. And what I would compare it to is the UEFA Champions League. For those who don't know, that's like the premier European soccer competition across all the countries in Europe. And the way they structure it is, depending on how strong your top domestic league is, you get a certain amount of spots in that year's competition. And the better your teams perform, you may get an extra spot the following year, or you may lose a spot. For example, England is currently the strongest country. They have Manchester City, Liverpool, Chelsea historically, even though they're down right now, and they've all been winning a ton recently. So they got an extra spot this year, which would give them 5 spots in the Champions League compared to 4. They need to do a similar model. That way it can be judged based off the results on the field, because the idea of having just it based off of brands, that's not reality. That's not the spirit of the game, because there are a lot of brands that aren't winning. And I say that as a Texas fan who's watched the Longhorns get punked in the Big 12 the last 15 years before he finally decided to win something. Like, look at USC.
Okay,
they're taking that ball.
I gotta wind this up. We got phone calls coming in.
Gotcha.
But I
all right. I didn't mean to ramble, but I'll call again. Love the show.
Please do. We got a big day tomorrow, so please do, Replica. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Everybody have a good one.
You got it. Replica, Mr. Longhorn. Okay, if you're new to the channel, phone line is still open, 763-260-1333. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to the channel and get your notifications on, because we can come on at live at any time. You got to keep your head on a swivel if you're part of the PATC community. Smash that like button if you like our content.
Call from
Huffer Paul.
Huffer Paul, I believe it is. The floor is yours. How you doing, sir? Mr. Clemson, correct?
Hey, how's it going, Greg? I tell you, I've been following you, first time caller, by the way, and following you for a long time now.
Beautiful.
And the Mafia, yeah, all good. So I'm listening to all the hubbub, right? As we all can attest to.
Yeah.
And so my biggest concern with a lot of this is people don't realize that the Power 2 cannot exist alone. They may for a minimum of 10 years, maybe 5. But if they didn't do the right thing by the rest of college football and keep all these other schools viable, the popularity of college football would dwindle to a lot less people. I mean, I don't think it would be anywhere like it is now. So I just think that they're not going to do that.
I agree. I think it would become like NASCAR, where it regionalized itself. I agree with you, sir.
Yeah, and so I think that the one good thing about Sankey and Petitti coming into power here and doing, I think they just basically saw the car running off the tracks. Talk about NASCAR, and they took control of the narrative in the power and said, we're going to fix this for everybody. And I do think they're going. I don't think it's about just them. I think they want to be in the lead, but I don't think they want to kill everybody else off. That's just my thought.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think, and now and this goes back to our last caller, Replica, from Texas. I do think they're playing a little bit of bad cop right now. They're both
yeah.
They're both taking the extreme, and they're saying, here's your choices. No automatic bids, and Petitti wants multiple bids and for particular conferences. But yeah, I don't think they want to break away. Sankey has said every time publicly he doesn't want to break away. The courts. They don't want to go back to they already have enough court cases lined up against them.
No. The fun. What's really interesting is they're going to have to do that to break the will of these high oligopoly media companies. They're going to have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way it's going to work, and they're going to do it. They're going to get it done. And the NCAA isn't any different than when I say oligopoly, the monopoly was the NCAA, and they didn't do jack. So they're going to have to break that down.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to call and say, hey, I'm a big fan. I watch you a lot, and Mafia too. And y'all are good people. I love all the work you do. I know you're not right all the time. Hell, if you're right all the time, I wouldn't believe you.
Yeah, there are times where I have to start the show taking the L. It hurts. It hurts, Huffer Paul. It hurts.
Yeah.
I appreciate you calling. Please call again, sir.
Yeah, man. Take care of yourself.
You got it. You too. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Huffer Paul, Mr. PATC Clemson Tiger, with his first call in the show. I love it. And I happen to agree with him. I mean, it's more fun when we disagree, but I agree with them. Now, of course, I could be tomorrow's live show. I could be taking the biggest L I've ever taken. Everything could go pear-shaped. It could be all fireworks, and this breakaway could have. I don't think it will. But again, tomorrow's a big day. And according to Ross Dellinger's article, and I'll put it up on the screen here. Let's see the part where they're talking about, they expect ideas, possibly proposals for tomorrow. I can't find it. So I think we're going to have another Wednesday in Dallas, Texas, where they're just talking and there's hardly any resolution for anything. And it needs to happen. It needs to happen. It does. Now, I see a lot of people in the chat room are saying that ESPN, they're just bluffing, Greg. Come on, they're just bluffing. Okay, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But, ESPN's trying to get some, they've got a lot of things they want to bid on here. They got the whole NBA. They want to know. They want to know what is going on. So does everybody else. The athletic directors who have to set these budgets. It's a crazy time. Tomorrow is going to be gigantic, and I cannot wait. Again, tomorrow, this is what I'm looking at. First of all, there are 2 episodes that we put out today. Episode 373, 374. Check them out. Tomorrow I'm looking at, me and the wife have an appointment with the tax man at about 1 o'clock Eastern, noon. So coming out of that meeting, where I'm going to be working in the studio, we're definitely going to be doing a live show and everything that happened tomorrow in Dallas, Texas. I don't know what time that's going to be. So you got to keep your head on a swivel. So you got to subscribe. You got to open up your notifications. Okay? And then you got to follow us at Flug Empire. It's on the ticker on the bottom of the screen on X, formerly known as Twitter, because sometimes we can give you a heads up. We're going to start in 40 minutes. We're going to start in 20 minutes. We're going to start in an hour. So follow us at Flug Empire. We're going to shut down our live show for tonight. We've been on the air for longer than 2 hours. Spectacular phone calls. Tomorrow we're going to light up the phone lines again, because that's what drives the show, is the PATC community and your phone calls. Tomorrow is a big day. So I hope you join us tomorrow. I can't tell you the time. We follow the story. That's what we do here at Peek Around the Corner. We follow the story. And the story tomorrow is Dallas, Texas, the SEC, the Big Ten, the Power 2, ruthless aggression. How hard are they going to push? How hard is the ACC and the Big 12 going to push back? And the G5, all they're trying to do is survive. Let the G5 survive. I'm always going to go to bat for the little guy. The big fat guy from Minnesota is going to go to bat for the little guy. So get used to it. That's what we do here at Peek Around the Corner. So if you're new to the channel, before you leave, please subscribe, smash the like button. I want to thank you for the generosity with the donations to help us keep the lights on. I want to thank the people in the chat for the great comments, and I want to thank the people with the great phone calls. Yet again, the best phone calls in college football, YouTube. Until next time. And next time is going to be really, really important. Until next time, tomorrow, from all of us at PATC, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.